Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show. We've already got Jester Jedi hanging out in chat. Thanks for coming on by. I'm Kay, but this awesome person right here, this is my co-host, David. David, who are you, and what the heck is we doing here?
Hi, I'm David, I think, today. And this is the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better GM, how to be a better player, how to do neat things, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusion so that everybody can have a good time.
And thank you. That's on? Okay, cool. I muted the wrong thing, but it made me realize that it hadn't turned Bardley on. So now we've got music for the nice folks to hear. I'm Kay. I work in video games by day, but I do all sorts of TTRPG stuff every other chance that I get. You can find David and I here every Tuesday, usually. I'm moving. So we will not be here for the next 2 weeks, the 14th or the 21st. However, on the 28th, we will be back to send off the month. I will be streaming on Thursday, I think, unless I just absolutely crap out. It's possible. Moving sucks. But potentially right back here on Thursday, playing probably some Pokemon. I still need some shiny starters. And, next Wednesday, the Emergency Power Podcast will still air because that is a pre-recorded podcast. So you will get some soul goodness / trouble. And things are really heating up for that character. So that's fun. But that's not what we're here for today. Today, we is here to talk about building a campaign. Hey, Vivian, how are you?
I thought we were here to talk about the cinematic masterpiece that is Mars Attacks.
I mean, we could derail into that.
We don't have to this week, but one day.
One day.
One
maybe
day
you can just do an entire rant about Mars Attacks while I'm moving.
Listen, that's it's copyrighted. That's unfortunate. But like I was like, we could do like a watch along where David just pauses it every 30 seconds and then rants for 2 hours about some small, insignificant detail.
Oh my goodness, JD Lady, thank you for the resub. That is something we could potentially do in the Cataclysm Discord. I feel like that's a nice little side quest. Mystery Science Theater, David style.
But building TTRP, I have words. Building TTRPGs.
Building
How
campaigns. Building worlds.
Building.
So you have now built one in a chunk of an original. We did a pretty good, of a big one, of big long-term campaign worlds. MSTDS. Mystidius? I don't know what that means.
Mystery Science Theater.
Oh, David style.
Very
cute.
We figured it out.
There we are. That or Mystery Science Theater 3 Davids, and that sounds dangerous.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we've built some one-shots, and even one-shots, require some world building and how much lore to get you into the story versus too much lore that drives you away. And we built God Plane, and we've let's be honest, we've at least rough drafted out way too many settings and ideas.
Yeah, the whole reason that Godplane isn't up on like Drive-Thru or any of the other, or like itch.io or any of the other platforms for a selling module is Godplane is much bigger than what you saw on the stream both times we ran it. and so much of it is tailored to the players and the characters um, every time we run it, that it's really hard to sort of both filter out what is generic and what is tailored, and then also get all the ideas packed in a way that is both readable and runnable.
It sounds like an excuse, but I mean, it's still a pretty good excuse.
So one of the dirty secrets, one of the filthy dirty secrets that companies like Wizards of the Coast won't tell you, is that a lot of the source books and campaign modules and stuff that they sell never get run by the people who buy them. And sometimes it is just a matter of being overambitious. Like, if you are a researcher in Antarctica and there are 5 other people, and 4 of those people don't want to play the module that you happen to bring with you, or, let's say some billionaire sends you on a one-way trip to Mars because he's homesick, because there are emeralds on that planet, and they need mining, or there are coconuts that need to be picked by monkeys.
We're not. Nope. Too soon.
Right?
Too soon.
That it stands to reason that it won't necessarily be the environment that you have enough people, or you have enough downtime, or all the stars align so that you can run a particular module. And many businesses are built on whales, whether it is mobile games with microtransactions, AAA games with microtransactions, indie games with microtransactions, battle passes with microtransactions. They're built on like the 1% of the 1% that will drop thousands and thousands of dollars on this particular game. I remember reading a statistic that when the first reboot, or when what's the Star Wars Battlefront, when Battlefront 1, the second one, came out. I know that's complicated, but there was the one that was on the PS2. When the second one came, when the first of the second one came out, when the second of the first one came out, they did the math, and in order to unlock all the things, you needed to spend about $10,000. And 2 weeks into the game, people were spotting people who had all the things, and they're like, "Hey, Brad, did you really drop 10K? Did you give this mega corporation $10,000 for this here $60 game?" And the answer is yes. Yes, they did. But there are people who go out and buy all the Paizo books, all the Wizard of the Coast books, all of the things that a content creator or a producer that they like, build out. And sometimes it sits on the shelf and does nothing, but I'd argue more often people sit down and read them. Like Kay has a number of source books and modules from a wide range of people, including a bunch of indie content creators. And we sat down and we've poured over like a fraction of them for hours and hours and hours. And we haven't been able to run all the things. And we want to run all the things. There aren't enough hours in the year for us to do so.
We can't all be Carrie Smith.
Right. We can't all be Carrie Smith.
True.
But we've not just read, but we've crawled through these modules, and there are lots of people who do the same thing, where they've bought a module, sat down and read the thing and went, "Oh, this is cool," and then put it on their shelf or put it in the special folder on their computer, and then it never gets run.
I know people who are like, I read TTRPG rule books like other people read novels. Like, it's entertaining for me. It's like, huh.
Right. Yeah, and there are tons of math nerds out there who do the same thing. They're like, let's see how the statistics and probability of an attack at level 20 is versus an attack at level 1 for all these different classes. But you have to strike a balance. You have to strike a balance between writing a module that is readable and writing a module that like entertaining readable, but also writing a module that gives you all the mechanics that you need. And there are tons of rules light systems that we really love, like Dish Pitch Witches, Thirsty Sword Lesbians, and then there are tons of crunchier modules that and systems that we're into. Kay and I a couple weeks ago were looking at one, and I forget the name of it, where the mechanics were based around the tarot.
Oh yeah.
And so you had to, and then there was another system where it's like you just need a deck of cards, or deck of regular playing cards, and they just mechanically fascinating. And we've seen a lot of modules where it's like, man, this would be really cool to run, but this is also like 4 pages of gibberish. And then we've also seen stuff where it's like, this is 27 pages of like really deep lore and really interesting thing, but where's the thing that we're supposed to run? It's on page 19 for about 2 paragraphs. So circling back, God Plane, in addition to all the other things that we're working on, we've really like gone back and forth on like, well, how are we going to get this thing bundled together and out? And we've been distracted by other things that we're working on. Yeah.
I like that this was, hey, let's talk about how to put together a campaign, and it completely derailed into, I don't know how to get this campaign into a source book.
Right.
But that is actually one of the things we do want to talk about, is like figure out which system works best for the game you want to run. And excuse me, a kitten has apparently been playing with my pop shield. And I just had to put it back on the frickin' mic.
I actually figured out how we're going to get God Plane out, but that is neither here nor
Later. Write it down.
I'm writing it down now, but it's good that we had this discussion.
Hey,
because
Rex.
now I figured out.
Yes, so, we talked about, I loved playing Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I had a ridiculously fun time with it. I don't think I personally could run a long-term campaign in a rules light system. And that is not a universal statement. Please stuff your face, JD. I can verb. Connie Chang, amazing GM, has a whole rant about why you should play your game in Powered by the Apocalypse, and how it is more about collaboration, and it is less likely to make it a player versus GM conflicting scenario. And I'm like, all of that sounds amazing, and I respect all that you're saying, but that is not my experience with these games. So there are things that will work for you in particular, but there are also things that work better or less well with the system. A lot of people say you can't run good horror in 5e.
Well,
it's certainly challenging. There are, and other people are like, if you want horror, you should play with Cthulhu. Look, I have problems with Call of Cthulhu. I've played it. I enjoy it. A lot of my problems with Call of Cthulhu not that it isn't, but is more than just the obvious Lovecraftian problem. Because, we don't heck racists. But just so much of the game, I feel like, especially anytime I'm watching an actual play, so much of the game is, the first part of the game is spent around just being like, oh, haha, we're rich and terrible people. It's okay that we're all going to die. And I'm like, how do we skip this? How do we make that part of this game not be part of this game?
So,
Oh,
H.P. Lovecraft.
oh boy, here we go, y'all. Buckle up.
Now, everybody know that he's a legendary racist. Like, how racist do you have to be whereby in the year of our Lord, like 1920 or whenever the can't, I'm not going to Wikipedia him right now, but when racism was fine, people were like, listen, bud, you're a little spicy. You're a little too serious about this.
We're fine with racism, but you're taking it a little far.
I'm gonna circle. I was gonna type a comment. I'm gonna circle back to that. But and having read a number of Lovecraft's work, I'm still crawling through some of them because there's brilliant horror there, especially like the birth of cosmic horror. He wasn't the best writer, but then most writers aren't the best writer. That is excusable. And the whole like vintage, out of date nomenclature and labels for things, and the idea of like hysteria and madhouses, and while there's like an aesthetic attached to that, which cool, and I think I can confidently speak for both of us in saying that our approach to storytelling wants to leave the not just negative but harmful tropes behind, and so much of the horror aspect of Lovecraftian lore is steeped in those negative, hurtful, misunderstood, poorly researched ideas. However, the game designers who've made things like Call of Cthulhu, who are like, this is a room full of scumbag rich people, and they're going to get what they deserve. They're going to get the pantsuit off of them because, they very publicly fired somebody that they weren't supposed to fire. And then the rich people get the smoke. I'm perfectly okay with that. There's nothing more entertaining than watching a super rich person get what they deserve.
That is not technically my complaint. My complaint is I have to sit through almost an hour of them going, yes, and we're all rich and terrible. And I'm like, I believe you. Yeah. Can we just jump in?
Yeah.
I'm done with this part.
Can we skip to dessert? You getting your just desserts. It's like, we get it. You have an emerald mine. Like, here we go. I forgot what my other point was. Loading. Also, to respond to JD Lady says, I'm forever a 5-year-old, so when left to my own devices, corn dog, carrot sticks, and pretzels. Having recently fed a 5-year-old, I wish I could get that diversity of food into a 5-year-old. You're doing great, okay? You're doing great.
So yes, one of the things is start figuring out what kind of game you want to play and start thinking about what system is going to run it better. Because again, you can run horror in 5e. I refuse to try corn dogs till my 30s. I just don't eat hot dogs, but those are for other reasons.
I mean, you're very ace, so that tracks.
It gets worse. I grew up in the country, and I've seen how they're made.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, you never want to know how the sausage is made.
Nope, it's all good. I can deal with sausage. Hot dogs is a whole other.
Yeah, when the parts that are supposed to be glue end up in the hot dog.
JD is eating these. We're not gonna go any further. But figure out, what kind of system do you want? Because yes, you can. I know that a lot of people, especially right now, are very anti D&D 5e. I still think 5e is a great and very flexible system. And just about anything that you want to do, you can probably do in 5e. That doesn't mean you can't do it more quickly and more easily in other systems. There goes my appetite. Yeah.
My B.
Kay has looked into the abyss. Nice thing about my neurodivergence is I forget easily. Good for you. And then start figuring out what for different people, campaigns come in different ways, right? Because you and I got to approach Godplane from like, I want to tell this story. And for those of you who don't know, Godplane went through 3 different formats before I turned it into a TTRPG, because this was one of those things that was inside me and I needed to get out. And it was like, okay, it doesn't work as this. Okay, it also doesn't work as this. What is this thing? How can I make it? Oh, it wants to be a TTRPG and it's got to change a little bit every time. Okay, that makes sense now. But then you also have to talk to people you're going to play with and make sure that's also the story that they want to tell. We were blessed for choice with incredible players who were like, yes, if you're running a thing, I would like to be in it. Thank you, Candace. We love you, Candace. And
Right.
we're able to say we're running horror. And they all said, we like horror, we're in. And we said, great. And that was easy. And then we just had to schedule. And, scheduling is always a challenge. So start thinking about where you start this from. Yes, it is the multimedia franchise. Look, it has been done as a screenplay. It has been done as a short story. It has been done as a comic. None of them to completion, but like the story was there. I just couldn't get it out. So you might approach your campaign a couple different ways. Again, it might be, I have a story and I'm going to tell it through the setting of this world. And these are the heroes or villains or murder hobos who are going to like go through this story. It might be, okay, I've got 5 awesome people who all want to play with me on Wednesday nights. Hey, 5 awesome people. What are you feeling? Because I know especially a lot of forever GMs who were like, I can tell a story. Do you want to be do you want to do fantasy? Do you want to do sci-fi? What do you want to do? Okay, so if you're wanting to do sci-fi, here's the options that we can do. Give me your characters. Do you want this to be more this versus this or this versus this, right? And then they build a world out of that. And both of those are completely valid forms. To an extent, David and I are doing a hybrid of that with the thing that we're working on, because it is, we've built a world and we need our players to populate a lot of the stuff in that world. So start thinking about that. That's your next step of, because there's nothing worse than, cool, I've got this idea. I've gone through all of this. And you say, everyone, I've got this awesome idea. And your 8 friends all go, could we do traditional fantasy instead?
Right. And a couple of things to remember. One is that it's collaborative storytelling. So no matter what idea you have to make space for players, because there's a famous Reddit post where a guy is like, oh man, I have this great idea for a D&D campaign, except every time I try to run it, the players sabotage it. So is there a way that I could run a D&D campaign where I'm the GM, but I'm also the players? And they're like, my dude, my sibling, that's called writing a book, bro.
Yeah. My sibling and Tiamat, go write a book.
Right.
And y'all, I won't say who because they may or may not be in chat. But my brother and Dice, That is my sibling in dice is excellent. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well done, Rex.
That's mine now.
But someone in chat, or not necessarily in chat, someone who is sometimes in chat, which is why I'm not calling them out so that they can name themselves if they choose. Someone tried to commission them to run a one-on-one TTRPG set. Like, they were like, I want this setting. My character is basically going to become Batman, but his mom is his butler and can't tell him, and he's going to end up dating this character from this show, but I want his family to be for like this character from this show, and like had it all. It's like, so will you run it for me? And I'm like, whatever you do not run the game for that person.
Right. It's gonna go poorly. Ooh-wee.
So people do attempt that. So just remember, it is collaborative. No session will survive first encounter with its players.
And another important thing to remember, and I think that a lot of, especially like beginner storytellers, regardless of format, forget, is that every story's been told already. And on the one hand, it seems unfair. Like, you're like, I could come up with something original. It's like, no. Like, there's a Shakespeare play that's done what you want to do. But there's no reason to reinvent the wheel, because what we as humans want is our own variations on these stories.
Why do you think the most popular, and don't ask me why and how I know this, I actually know it because I read it in an article, but don't ask me why I know this is completely accurate. The most popular genre of fiction on Archive of Our Own is a coffee shop AU.
Pain.
Everyone wants these characters
Pain.
living a life of a barista in a world that they share.
Pain. Ooh. That explains a lot of conversations I've had. But pain.
I just broke David.
So much pain.
I just absolutely broke David.
But every story is either you're going somewhere or somebody shows up. Every TTRPG story is there's a thing you got to go get, or there's a thing that you got to keep somebody from getting, and oh no, things have gone wrong. Yeah, like most TTRPGs are, there's a problem that needs fixing. You are a fixer, go fix it. And that's okay, because that's fun, that's compelling, and you can stick so much in that. You can have somebody go and like mug Santa, or you can have somebody go and steal a dragon age to stop a war between two peoples. Yes, I've been watching Dragon Prince. And listen, I got this little tart stealing.
Ezrin is David's favorite character ever.
This man does not have enough pockets for all the tarts that he got.
That's why he's got a bait.
At this point, right? But at this point, like, you watch a show, and I'm like a couple of episodes into the first season. At some point, them things are stale. Like, at some point, you gotta let them go. And he's still just like producing these things. Like, he has a bag of holding of snacks, which I think ultimately I'm jealous. I think that's the problem. Is there's a bottom to the box of Kato snacks, and I wish there wasn't.
And also, you would have been murdered had you stolen your mom's jelly tarts.
Oh yeah, no, that would have happened precisely once, and they would have been like, in this here rectangle lies David. He will be missed, except by his mother, because no one lays hands on her tarts on a turn. Uh, yeah, my eulogy would have been, oh, he got what he deserved.
But yes, you don't have to tell a completely original story. What you have to do is tell a story that is original and exciting to the people in it. And that's, if you start asking people, what's your character do? Cool, why? Okay, they're going to go do this thing. Why? Is that what do they want and what do they need? Because those are two different things. And you can start pulling a whole lot of stuff together. And anytime you can be like, hey, you know this thing in your character's past? It's tied to this other character's past. That you didn't realize those are me. Ooh, that's magic.
Yeah, like Rex says, my halfling from Mercy Road has a bag of holding of snacks and drinks. I want one. Also, Mercy Road, April 1st. Be there or be all right angles.
Exactly. Internet is not behaving.
Oh.
Well, thank you for hanging out and doing your best, Jedi. We appreciate you.
But
yeah,
so
and often those tropes are great because they're great little signals. I was talking to someone about like how can I be sure that I will tell a good story? And it's like, how do I have these good powerful moments? And it's like, well, to an extent you have to trust your players, right? Because you can set up a player for an awesome moment, and if they're not paying attention they might not take it, right? But most people kind of know, oh, the music is swelling and the camera is panning to me and this is my character's moment. And you can do that by using tropes. Don't have to be super heavy-handed, but like, yeah, okay, it's all clearly coming to you. Take a minute, take this chance to get your thoughts together.
And another common thing that I hear about is people going, well, how do I know if my idea is good enough? And the answer is, your idea is good enough. The dumbest, stupidest, wackiest, off-kilter, no-leg ideas have been made into multi-billion-dollar franchises.
There's a Tetris movie coming out.
Yep.
There was a Gummy Bears cartoon. There was a Street Sharks cartoon.
Listen, Street Sharks.
They were jawsome. I broke him again!
That is psychic damage. But yeah,
blocked that one out, did you?
Oh yeah, that one.
Pacific Rim 2 got made. I mean, look, Pacific Rim the first got made. Like, who would have thought we'd have that movie with a Hollywood budget?
Right. With Guillermo del Toro was like, listen, I make like really like weird spooky stuff and I make stuff for kids. By the way, I want to make Robot Fights Godzilla, but American. Let's go. And masterpiece. But like, oh god, Street Sharks. I had an example, but Street Sharks wins. Listen, I'm not going to get into it, but if you have no frame of reference for Street Sharks, please go Google it right now. Go Google a trailer. Go
Whatever you're thinking, it's worse.
Yeah, right. Right. And guess what? We as children, we sat down and watched it. And you could take one thing and put it in another thing, and then...
Biker Mice from Mars was an experience. Oh, David's wound up. Road Rovers, my Samurai Pizza Cats was awesome. My brother's obsessed with Road Rovers.
But it doesn't matter how bad your idea is. Like that, just if it sounds even a little bit interesting to you, go with it. Go with it. If you're like this is. You
might need to make sure that your idea matches the tone of the campaign and the game that everyone wants to play. Because look, no one would have expected Boyfriend Dungeon to be the game. It's a dating sim where your weapons, it's a dungeon crawler where you go in and you hack and slash stuff, and then you leave the dungeon and your weapons magical girl transform into people, and then you date those people, and then your relationship powers up, so you go and you kill more people with your weapon girlfriend, boyfriend, or cat friend. Or non-binary friend. It can work, but only in a very certain combination.
Yeah. So, and that's ultimately my point, is that whatever idea you have, what matters is the execution. Like, they made a movie where they're like, instead of teaching astronauts how to drill, we're going to teach, like, alcoholic drillers how to be astronauts. And then shoot them into space and have them drill on an asteroid, or meteor. It's a meteor because it was coming towards it. Was it a meteor or an asteroid? Science nerds. In Armageddon, was it a meteor or an asteroid? Tell me why. Share your notes. Prove your work. But it's like, this can't be any good. And guess what? It wasn't. And we all saw it at least twice. I don't know anybody who hasn't seen that movie at least twice. And this is why system matters. This is why, because your system is part of, right. J Lady. I know, we've all seen it at least twice. and Dungeon Mr. Ty says, it's an asteroid. I will accept that because I will Google it later.
It generally needs meteoroids. Meteoroids can be big enough to cause a problem on Earth, but the asteroids are the ones that are really gonna bone us.
Wait, you have it? It's time to go fix that. That movie's terrible. Go watch it.
I don't think I've seen it, so I may have to. Yeah. I'm a science nerd. The idea of it offended me.
There's an apocryphal tale, and I don't know if it's true or not because I do not work at NASA. Where to new hires for engineers and physicists, they sit down and make them watch Armageddon, and they're like, listen, make a list of inaccuracies in this movie. And if they have like less than 20, then they don't get the job. So to sit down and be like, let's pour some Chardonnay and talk about how everything in this is wrong. I am on board. Anyway, point is, execution matters, which is why system matters, which is why your players and their heart's desires matter, and their characters and what their characters needs and what their characters want. Oh God,
Prometheus was...
Ridley Scott, I'm gonna need you to stop. Like,
but also Fassbender. I appreciate the Fassbender.
Right, but
no other excuses. That's it.
Ridley Scott has been wanking on screen for a solid 20 years now, and I'm gonna need you to finish, bud. Like, I know you're old and it takes a long time to get there.
David, cut it. We're done with that particular.
I just need Ridley Scott to stop the end. That's bad.
Focusing. One of the other concerns with campaigns is often so a thing happens when you're like 8 or 9 and you're writing your first story, right? And it's like, it starts out as a little kid going to do something, usually with an animal friend, and it becomes this massive sprawling, and all these things are going to happen, and there's little pieces, your favorite bit from every single cartoon you watch on Saturday morning, and there's a scary bit taken directly from a movie that you saw, that your parents thought you were in bed and you saw the scary scene, and now that's the worst thing that's going to happen. And there gets to be ideas and lore, and it's all disconnected and just huge and massive and sprawling, and it takes no 0.2 seconds for a D&D campaign to turn into that.
Yep.
Because everyone wants. And that's not to say, yes, if every one of your players comes in and says, I want my character to be from this particular land or this culture, and it's this particular way, those are great players. Those are awesome players. They have put work into world building and character lore, and that is awesome. Everyone complains about, the Matt Mercer effect, or like I want the Matt Mercer GM. Cool. Where's your part? Where's your Ashley Bailey? Where's your Laura? I'm blanking on her name. Married to Travis.
You mean Laura Bailey and
Laura Bailey.
Ashley Johnson.
That's where I got messed up. Where's your Laura Bailey? Just with, pages and pages of backstory. Where is your Liam, coming up with, I super researched what you guys did in campaign 1, and now my character's based off of that, right? If your players are doing that, that's great, and incorporate it. Start with a big bad evil guy and then work backwards. That is David's favorite method, generally, actually.
It happens more often than I intend. But that is an excellent point, is that your campaigns, or more broadly, the stories that you are telling, can start from all sorts of different sources.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of my early writing, I say early, but I mean in my early 20s, is there was a scene in my head, and the whole story was getting to that scene and getting out of that scene. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't, but that is a viable way to approach.
Mm-hmm.
A module that I'm working on right now for Top Secret Project is, this feeds into a bigger story element. Like, I need these things to fall into place at some point in the future. So one of these parts that needs to fall into place is going to happen here. That's the whole basis for the module. And then, you work out from there. Rex says, what is the villain doing and why? Then how does this affect the players and pull them into it? Heroes are reactive to the villain's plot in the majority of games. So I was talking to my writing partner, and we were talking storytelling, as we often do. And I was like, I was making this argument of, we as a society should stop idolizing heroes and should start idolizing villains. Not because they do bad things, but because they represent a drive and a focus, and a commitment that is respectable. Because, like, you hear about heroes who are like, no matter how many times you get knocked down, you gotta get back up. No one has more resolve. No one has more wherewithal than a comic book villain. Because no matter how many times the Joker catches a spin kick from Batman, he's back in his face 2 comic books later. I don't know if there's a bone in Joker's body that has not been broken at least twice. And this man is like in a wheelchair, in a full body cast, talking trash to Batman. Now, should Batman break more bones in his body? Absolutely. Don't even get me started about what Joker's done to Harley Quinn, because that's like an hour-long rant.
Yeah, we don't got time for that. There'll be too
Not
many
enough
swears. We'll
broken
get kicked
bones.
off of
Right.
Twitch.
Not enough broken bones in Joker's body. But then my writing partner said what Rex said. Villains are proactive and heroes are reactive. Like, villains are like, I want to do blank. I want to be a mad scientist. I want to be a mad engineer, because they're really mad engineers, because they're not running experiments. They're building a thing. They're like, I want a really cool death ray, so I'm going to go make it. And then I'm going to hold the world ransom. And it's like, okay, go off. Just. Or like, I was talking to Kay about Captain Planet villains before the show started. There is nothing more sensical and outright silly than a Captain Planet, because they literally are like, I am going to dump sewage into a river, and they're like, but why? And they're like, because. Does it make you money? Does it gain you power? And they're like, no. It's like, I'm polluting the environment because Mother Earth could get the smoke. And it's like, but why? Like, half of the Captain Planet episodes is the 5 teenagers running around going, so why are you doing this? And they're like, because I'm evil. And it's like, what?
It is interesting. Ty is saying that's why the heroes start in a tavern, because they're waiting to react. But it's interesting that in older, more old school D&D, the heroes started outside of the dungeon, and they just slaughtered their way through, much like a villain. What are we here to do? Kill everything. Why? Because there's some gold and maybe a girl at the end. And we're going to take the gold and claim the girl and go be heroes.
I was going to say, maybe you don't want the girl at the bottom of a dungeon, but then I thought about it, and that's precisely what I want.
I mean...
Now, you go and rescue the girl
Mario's
at the bottom
been
of the dungeon.
after Peach forever. I know what I did. I know exactly what I did. I know exactly what I did. I've baited you, sir. You are too easy.
Listen, I just... They very conveniently leave out the king of the Mushroom Kingdom. Because it's Princess Peach, not Queen Peach. And let's be real, if the king was accepting of alternative lifestyles, if the king made peace with the fact that his daughter has found love, then maybe you wouldn't need to contract a plumber from New York to come and, I don't know, battle the forces of an entire other kingdom in order to retrieve said daughter from, the man,
the Scaly.
Yeah, the lizard that loves her. Because more than once, she's been kidnapped by this man, by this lizard, and then the next time you see, there are Koopa kids running around everywhere, and it's like,
Bowser wears a lot of studded leather. Yes, absolutely. Right. And, apparently the king just can't handle furries in the family.
Yeah, okay. So, Ribbonanza says, honestly, I think Mario and Peach are just good friends. Here's the thing. Mario got a girlfriend. Mario has a girlfriend, and her name is not Princess Peach, because in the original Donkey Kong, and this is why Mario got smoke for Donkey Kong, is because Donkey Kong grabs his girlfriend and then starts throwing barrels at him, and he's like, listen, just let me have my lady back. Like, I gotta go plumb, okay? This is what I do, I plumb.
Look. I worked at DeviantArt when Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story came out, and I'm like, I do not need the power combination of furries and vor in a game. Thank you. I will not pay you money for this, Nintendo. I cannot handle vor. I am fine with Princess Peach and Bowser doing their thing, but I don't need vor involved. Thank you. Also, if you all have not seen the videos of Jack Black dressed as Bowser on whatever talk show that was, Jack Black, do you know Jack Black's doing the voice of Bowser?
Yep.
Okay. He shows up on one of these frickin' talk shows in like a Bowser onesie with like Bowser's head around his face. The outfit is so tight that they had to censor his giblets on TV.
Jack Black is an icon. The end.
Yes. There's your answer, David.
Rex says about the Armageddon being shown at NASA. I know someone I can verify with. Rex then says, heard back, not that they are aware of, but the movie is mocked among the NASA crowd. Good. But
welcome back. We got derailed. We're talking about Mario somehow. How did that happen, David?
Because the Koopa kids have to come from somewhere, okay?
That's right. Okay, so we're talking about
oviposition.
We were discussing where do you start your campaign? And a popular place is what's the big bad, what's he doing, and how does it draw players in? You can start, some people start with the scene, some people start with, hey players, what setting do you want to do? I'm trying so hard not to break out laughing and keep this going, and the fact that I'm going still is making him laugh harder because he knows how hard I am laughing on the inside. With Godplane, believe it or not, we didn't start with the nightmare. We started with the dreaming god. Now, it's often a little bit more challenging if you don't start with the big bad. But also, like, you can start figuring out early on, and there's a thing that I like to do, even as a player sometimes, where you throw out something and you drop a thread, right? And it's like, okay, this person is doing something a little bit shady. You're aware this person's doing something a little bit shady. You don't know why or for who. And you don't have to answer that. You don't even have to necessarily know that at the start. Because as we all know, no module will survive its first encounter with the players. And if you're like, okay, here's the big bad idea, and here's how all these things, this is going to lead up to this little mini boss who's going to give them this clue, which is going to get them to the big bad. And the players are like, okay, yeah, we see that. Is that thing over there related? And you're like, no, that's cool. Yes, it's related. So sometimes if you can start dropping things where it's like, could I potentially, even in a roundabout way, link this back in, you can get a really cool idea. So yeah, figure out how you start dragging your characters in. How are they connected to each other? How are they connected to the world? How are they connected to the big bad? And how is the world, how is the big bad this Audrey 2 plant that's reaching out into the world, going, feed me, and dragging people in? Have you recovered, David?
No, but one of my approaches is there are no red herrings. Like, if you think it's connected, it's connected.
Except for the ones I make up and throw in as a player.
Right. But only because you are kind enough to spare me the extra legwork that would require inventing things to tie those back in. But, Kay knows that I often start with the villain nowadays. But, like you said, we started with the Dreaming God, which essentially is the quest giver. Mm-hmm. But we also started with the characters, because Godplane wouldn't be what it was and what it is if we didn't have something to pull from for the characters. And I still want, so I've worked on, and I have to reformat for the modern world, but I want to have a scene where the whole point of the module is to have a wizard in a tavern drunk, where said wizard says, I didn't ask how big the room is. I said I cast fireball. Like that's what I'm looking for. Um and like I said, there could be the MacGuffin that you need to go get. The woman at the bot. It doesn't have to be a woman. It's a mimic, okay? It's a mimic. There's a dungeon Roomba down there, and somebody wants to copy it, so they need you to go steal one so that they can, reverse engineer it. There's a MacGuffin. But yeah, so I mean, we are an hour in, and we're still on like the first part of how to do this.
It's been a derail-y day.
Yeah.
David is full of rants and side quests.
Yes. Yeah, that so you got to start somewhere, and there are plenty of good places to start. And I think that decision leads into what system you want to play. But then the reverse is also true. Like, Kay and I are building out something for Dish Pit Witches, where Kay was like, "This system's awesome. We're gonna run something." So
it can also help define too. Like, if you're like, okay, look, we want to run Starfinder. Cool. Looks like we're running Starfinder. You're probably not going to be doing like. There's certain things that come with a sci-fi system. I almost said like you're not going to be doing a Western, but no, that's just Star Wars. But also finding ways to mesh things together. Someday I will get David to watch Abria in A Court of Fey and Flowers. She brilliantly combined D&D 5e with Good Society, which is a Jane Austen style TTRPG. So if you can find weird... Again, sometimes you can get those weird, fun combinations. Again, Dimension 20, one of my favorite things that they did was they did a Game of Thrones style campaign with like exit on death characters. Like you die, you make a new character. All sorts of betrayal, all sorts of intrigue, all sorts of secrets. And they were all candy. They were all candy people. They were made of licorice or they were Cadbury bunnies.
Ooh-wee.
A Crown of Candy is excellent. So sometimes those weird combinations will make the whole thing even more fun. But again, you got to make sure you've got the right combination and everyone understands what you were going for. You had a plan for how this was going to go and it didn't survive the host/audience? Who could have seen this coming? I know, Rex. I know. David, go watch A Court of Fey and Flowers, right? Right? It's so good. It's so good. But one of the ways you can help do that is you can come at this from a couple different ways. When David and I built Godplane, we came up with core pillars. So it was, Hidden Truths Revealed, something, and Redemption. I don't remember what the second pillar was right now. Hidden Truths Revealed, Unexpected Friendships, Hidden Truths Revealed, Redemption. And that was how we tried to make sure... Sorry, there's a very loud car and I assume you can hear it. That was how we tried to make sure that, like, everything in the adventure tied back. What did this scene reveal? Either about the setting, about the dreaming god, about Vassal, or about the characters. How will this... Let's make sure we leave time for roleplay because unexpected friendships or unlikely friendships have to happen. And if we just rush them through horror nonstop, they're not going to bond. What are things we can put in front of our players so that their characters will have to overcome an obstacle and grow from it? How can we, when in 8 episodes, take them from we don't know them to, oh my God, they're growing, to, oh my God, my baby, I'm never going to see them again. Like, that is the goal of that campaign, is to show those character arcs. Hey, Faison! So when we started recruiting for who's going to play in this, that was the first thing we did. was, heck, I'm trying to talk and do a thing at the same time, and it's just absolutely failing. What? I don't. Okay. We reached out. We're like, hey, we're doing a horror campaign. We are thinking these nights. I'm thinking of recruiting these other people. Telling people who else is going to be at the table is a really, really awesome courtesy that you can pay them in case there's any, like, because there's never any drama or hidden beef or anything, you know, problematic
there's never
people
that
within the TTRPG. No. And then we'd say, you know, it's going to be this level. You can any character, you know, build your character, homebrew within reason. These are the pillars, and we straight up tell them, this is the pillar, and they come into Godplane knowing almost nothing. Like some of the spellcasters, I told them like, hey, there's not going to be a lot of NPCs in this, so maybe don't load up on charm spells. That was kind of all that we gave them. But because they all had that pillar, because they all knew, okay, when I hear those three, what does that mean? Well, I'm going to have to bond with my party, right? Or someone else. So I need a character who's willing to bond. Hidden truths revealed. I should have secrets, and they're going to come out. And redemption. I've got to have a character who can grow, who's got something they can heal from, redeem themselves. There's got to be something in their past. That makes people row the same direction so nicely. And even if you don't spend, especially in a longer campaign, you don't spend. If Godplane were, you know, a full, we're going to play and y'all can wander and we'll go through Arby's. We have the hidden beef. If it was just like, hey, we're going to wander through mist portals until we get to this next spot. And then you can wander, you can spend days in the haunted house if you want. We wouldn't be hitting all of those points as hard as we did, right? But because everyone built that character with that goal in mind, you're rowing the same direction. And I'm going to be honest, that's one of the things that really frustrates me. David knows this about one-shots, is I'm like, give me an archetype, give me a goal, because nothing frustrates me more than showing up to be like, okay, I've got 3 to 4 hours to play with people, especially people I don't know, and we've all got to get through this story and show off this system, you know, or raise money for this charity or whatever it's going to be. And it's like, okay, I have an idea of what we're doing. Here's my character. We're going to go. And then you get someone over here going, my character used to be a tiger and is now no longer a tiger, but wants to go back to being a tiger. And someone else is like, my character is a spy and a special agent, and they don't want to out themselves as that, so they don't want to go with the party. And this person's like, why has no one asked me why I talk funny? And it's like, this literally happened to me. Those exact characters in a one-shot. And I'm like, y'all, we gotta go steal some stuff and get out. I don't care that you used to be a tiger. That would be really cool for a long-term campaign. But not for a one-shot. So, pillars. Get everyone rowing the same direction. And then if they wander off the path into other fun things, it's cool because they're all going to be pulled that same direction.
So, Kay came up with the topic for today's show. And as is tradition, I started putting together some notes. And reviewing my notes as we sit here and talk about it reminds me of an old adage. There's more than one way to skin a cat. And I approached the topic with, okay, here's what you need to do in the order that you do it. And it didn't turn out that way because storytelling is never this one uniform process. But regardless of how you approach it, what Kay says is 100% true. And I'd argue it's the most important thing, is that you get all your players rowing in the same direction. But that means that part of being a good player is rowing in the same direction. Like, if you want to play a min-max campaign where you go into a dungeon and kill a bunch of things. Um, there's, to be clear, and we've said it before, there's nothing wrong with playing that way. That can be fun. That's not necessarily our type of fun, but also we didn't go to the theaters to watch the new Avatar movie either. And yet,
I've
$1
played
billion
some fun
later,
meat grinders.
right?
More fun as one shots, personally, but
But if that's what you're like, part of being a good player is either after a certain point going along, or knowing when to say this isn't going to be right for me, or this isn't right for me.
Yeah.
Like I'm playing a character in a home campaign that is unexpectedly an absolute terrorist, and is going around apparently trying to not start fires, but encourage other people to start fires, because
literal
that
fires.
is not specifically outlined as a crime. It's like, well, I'm not the one committing the crime, so it's fine. But at some point, you got to be like, not everything is flammable. Maybe you go down the path that is set ahead of you. And so, row in the same direction as the other players, row in the same direction as your GM. And that doesn't mean, you don't have fun and you don't throw in twists and you don't completely shatter whatever plan the GM had. But, there's a difference between, driving on roads and making a bunch of right and left turns and eventually getting there, versus careening off of a pier and into the ocean.
And, you're going to get that awkward table not funness if everyone's like, okay, so we're going to play a game that's all like romance, and it's going to be like Romance and Monster, and you show up and you're like, I'm interested in none of this. None of you are good enough for me. And I was going to be like, okay, and then they like start flirting and you just don't flirt back, right? You came into a dating sim with an edgelord ace. And look, you can play an ace in a dating game. I've seen it done. It happens at a Court of Fey and Flowers. It's awesome. But you have to be able to fit the thing. And if you're like, I would rather throw myself off a balcony than play a dating TTRPG, then don't play it. Just like if someone says we're gonna do a like mechanics heavy, if you get like, we're gonna have an infection roll table, we're gonna have all of these things, and you're like, that does not sound fun, don't play it. Now, not saying don't try it, because I've played a couple systems where I'm like, this doesn't sound fun at all. This is not my genre. And I'm not gonna say that I'm like, I'm going to go back and play every one of those again. There's a couple systems that I'm like, if someone I really like is playing it, I might play a short campaign. I'm not going to sign up for a long-term one. But there's a lot you can learn from other systems. There's a lot you can learn from trying other genres. But, if someone's like, we're gonna do this thing, and you're like, either that sounds like the worst thing, or I have done that and I know it's the worst thing for me. Listen to yourself, because people aren't going to have fun with you if you're not having fun with the game, with the setting, with the other characters. And as awkward as it feels, it's so much easier for you to say, hey, I think I'm not showing up anymore, than it is for everyone else to try to come together and kick you out.
Yeah. And it's okay to say no. It's okay to not. Ooh, yeah. Rex says, I can watch Outbreak Undead. I could not play it. Listen, my Steam library and the other launcher platforms I have all are festooned with horror games. At this point, dozens. Like, I own Alien Isolation on like 4 different platforms. Have I played more than 15 minutes of any of them? No. And it's not because I'm soft. though I am soft, it's because I win by not playing. The thing can't get me if I'm not playing.
Take care, Jester.
Bye. Um. So.
And
when. Yep.
Don't be afraid as a GM. If you start, you're like, okay, I've got 6 great people. And let's be fair, 6 is still a pretty big campaign, even for a home game.
Gigantic.
If you're like, I got 6 great people, and 6 of them come back and say, we want an anime-esque, overpowered, silly, fun, ridiculous game, right? And then 2 come in and say, we want intrigue and mystery and like secrets and betrayals. It's okay to say, maybe I play with these 4 and I invite these other 2 to another game because it's really good for your tables to match. Not saying everyone has to, but everyone has to enjoy the basic idea. If someone is coming in and saying, I want super serious intrigue spy stuff, courtly stuff, and everyone else is like zany and zappy, one person is probably not going to fit that well. If one person wants super mechanics and everyone else is like, it's easier to keep a table at peace if the table is already rowing the same direction. Go, David.
When building a campaign as GM, I'm sorry, just like 4 different like idioms sprang up into my head, and none of them were okay. Rex says, I had a player that wanted heavy combat at the start of my campaign, and it was not a good fit.
Yeah.
And again, to reinforce the point, it's okay if it's not a good fit.
Yeah.
Like, there are other tables. You can have other tables.
I have people who I'm like, I adore you as a friend. I love hanging out. I don't want to play TTRPGs with you because we just don't mesh.
Yeah, and
we just don't want the same things.
I have a long-term really great friend. He and I play video games together all the time, and I'm like, there's a reason that I'm playing video games with you all the time, and I'm not playing video games with Kay all the time. And that's because 1, Kay doesn't have that kind of free time. 2, because I have never played and don't know how to play a Pokemon game. And 3, we have different wheelhouses in terms of like games that we enjoy. There is some overlap there, but and circling back to a point you said earlier about like trying new systems, like, yeah, try new things. Even if you
might find
think
Stardew Valley.
Right. Even if you know deep down you're not gonna like it, try it anyway, because then you end up with spreadsheets and tabs open and a whole Rolodex in your head of the Stardew Wiki.
But maybe try it as a one-shot or a short campaign rather than
getting to year 6 and ruining Pierre's life. He knows what he did.
I would love to see how you play Pokemon. I'm not going to lie. I want to see the spreadsheets that David creates. Yeah, David with Animal Crossing. I think Animal Crossing would... Here's the thing. Animal Crossing might break David in the same way as Stardew Valley, only more frustrating because Animal Crossing is also... It is the same button of do a thing, get reward, do a thing, get profit of Stardew Valley, except much more loosey-goosey and much more forgiving. It's like the Mario Party of Stardew Valley.
The reason that David is not going to play Animal Crossing is because I would have a 1-room shack and a pile of bells, and I would just go out every day and make money all day, and there'd be no one living on my island. Tent. Yeah, There'd be no cool people living there. You'd just be a mountain of. It would just like be me and Tom Nook looking at each other, and it's just like, I'm running out of money to give you, and I'm like, you better go find some, because I got this bug.
David would have all the stonks. David would be like hitting the stock market, STALK, David, because you trade turnips every day.
Yep. Like I'd put on a suit and tie.
Look, Grumpy Islanders are my second favorite.
I would have the guy with the guitar.
KK, he shows up. Well, you have to upgrade your house to get KK, so.
Also, for anybody who's familiar with Stardew Valley, the only reason I upgraded my house in Stardew Valley for my first like 4 playthroughs
This is so terrible.
is because the most like energy efficient and the easiest to produce food and cheapest food that you could make is sashimi. And so the only person I talked to in town was Linus to get to 3 hearts with him so that he would give me the sashimi recipe so I could go into the Golden Cavern, the Skull Cavern, to get iridium, because, the stuff in there is scary and hits real bad. And so you need food to eat to replenish but in order to make the sashimis, you needed a kitchen. And so it was like, I need iridium. How do I get iridium? You go to the Skull Cavern. Okay, in order to survive in the Skull Cavern, you need food. What's the most economical and like mechanically efficient way to food? Talk to this guy, build kitchen. That's the only reason I have upgraded my house at any point in time.
There is one other reason you upgraded your house.
Oh, basement.
So you could get married, so you could divorce what's her name and hurt Pierre.
Right. So the ruin Pierre's life thing happened like 5 or 6 farms into it. And in order to ruin Pierre's life, you have to marry his daughter, who might not be his daughter, because she's got purple hair and the wizard's got purple hair, and Caroline really likes the wizard. But then you marry her, and then you divorce her, and then you erase her. No, you marry her, kids, turn kids to birds, divorce her. Then you wipe her memory, and then you marry someone else, and you do it all while you lock. Listen. I could do an entire YouTube video about how to ruin Pierre's life.
So yeah, make sure if you've got a party of Animal Crossing players, or if you've got a party of Stardew Valley players, or if you've got a party of Ruin Pierre's Life Stardew Valley players.
Right.
But we are nearing the time. We have been here a while. We did not get through half of what we intended to get through because apparently we were side questing and rambling tonight.
Yes.
Chat, you are all amazing. Thank you all for hanging out with us. Did you have any final thoughts or questions or things? David, I know all of that was eventually building toward a point. Do you want to try to make it while we give chat the chance to type something?
It's gone now because it's all about the smoke for Pierre.
Yeah, I know that the smoke is blinding.
Yeah. Ooh.
Thank you all. JD Freysan, crew. Rex may or may not still be hanging out. There's the Rex. And for everyone who came by earlier, it is always a treat. As I said, we are going to be gone for a bit. I am moving, so we will not be on next Tuesday or the following Tuesday, but we will be back on the 26th, I think. Is that the day? Is that the 28th? 26th is a Sunday.
Sunday.
One more thing. Steal ideas mercilessly from other media. Yes, Dungeon Mr. Ty. I had someone being like, okay, so I have this really, really obscure reference, this really, really obscure nod to something that was in only the Lord of the Rings books, and I'm worried that my players will... No, No, and if they do, they're nerdy enough, they're going to be like, oh my God, that came from there. I will shout out Adam, my incredible GM in our Starfinder game on Emergency Power Podcast. We go to this place. There's this special kind of radiation that's really bad on Akaton right now, and it's Thasteron, and we're like, okay, cool. Save and quick move energy your way, Kay. Thank you. I am so excited for the move to be over. And we're like, okay, Thasteron, weird. And then we leveled up, and we were looking for stuff, and we found this one weapon that was like, it's powered by Thasteron. We're like, wait a minute. That's a real canon thing. And in Starfinder World, it doesn't do what it does in our home game, but it's super cool that it's like, that is a thing that's in the game, and the GM has made it their own. It's nerdy, and it's great, and we love it. My favorite DM literally had the enlist from Sandman Comics in his D&D world. Steal from all of the things. Yes. And if you can do cool, weird, naughty steals, that's nod as in a nod, not naughty, though that's fun too. Again, the nerds who recognize will be like, oh my God, is that thing? We're in a shame.
In my home game, I very distantly described something that is coming in the future, and everyone else at the table was like, huh, that's really like mysterious. And then there was one player who was like, hey, have you read this one book by this one author? And I was like, God damn it. And I was like, yeah. He's like, is it a reference to that? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, I've been caught. And then he was like, oh my God, I can't wait to see this thing show up in the game. And I was just like, oh, that's that maybe it's not so bad that they have read the same book.
The Master Ty says, I had Elric, Hawkmoon, Merlin, and Bordkanen all as passengers in the same ship in my as my players. Yeah, we love that stuff. Like it's nerdy and great. Oh my God, I never think. So yes, Steel. We're gonna have to circle back to this, David, because we were gonna talk about organizing, and maybe we can do this in a more actually focused thing at some point. But that was apparently not today. I don't know why we tried to do this topic today, but those were the decisions that were made. David, who is you, and what is this, and why is we here?
Hi. I'm David. This is the Chaotic Wholesome Talk Show, where every week we talk about TTRPG stuff, how to be a better player, how to be a better GM, how to plan a campaign, how to completely get distracted from explaining how to plan a campaign, all with a focus on intersectionality and inclusivity so that everyone can have a good time.
And I'm Kay. I'm the other co-host. We're here generally every Tuesday, but not for the next 2 Tuesdays. We will see you on the 28th. I will be streaming on the 9th, and then maybe again on the 23rd. That will be probably a Pokemon, because I'm still trying to catch all the shinies. I need all of the shinies. Why is we here is a huge question. We may have broken astrophysics. Like, scientists are really having to rethink all of reality right now, so that is a question on so many levels. So we will find out. Again, you can see me Thursday. I'll be streaming Pokemon. Don't know for how long. And then you will not see me again until maybe the 23rd, maybe not until the 28th. But you can hear me over at the Emergency Power Podcast, which will be releasing a new episode on the 15th, as those are pre-recorded. And don't forget to mark your calendars for Mercy Road on the 1st. It is not an April Fool's joke. It is actually happening, a 24-hour TTRPG stream. 8 teams, all GM'd by Saucefire for 24 hours straight. How does he do it?
Yeah.
All for a great charity, and who knows, you'll probably see a few familiar faces, maybe even a few from chat. And with that, I'm going to flip us over to the out screen, and we're going to probably go raid Xander. Xander's streaming.
Yep.
It's always good to see Xander. So thank you again for hanging out. If I don't see you Thursday, I will see you towards the end of the month. Be good to yourselves. Be excellent to others. Thank you for hanging out and for your questions. You're the best. Bye, y'all.